And welcome and good evening, everybody, to the Whole Agenda Radio Show. I am your host, Robert Pepino, and of course, I'm always glad to be here. But if all of you have not heard, this is going to be my last show. Now, I got to tell you, I've enjoyed tremendously being on this network. And being a part of your lives and letting me into your life, just letting me share my information with all the wonderful guests that I have brought to you. It has been an honor and a pleasure being here with all of you for this last year and a half. I can't tell you what it's meant to me. It's been an incredible experience for me. First of all, I want to thank Lorian Fenton for bringing me to the network. I love her dearly. She is an incredible human being with an extraordinary sense of consciousness. I love her to death, and I want to thank her for letting me be part of this network. And then, of course, I want to thank Hawk very much for allowing me to be part of this network. It's been just truly an incredible experience. And if you guys, you're just hearing this now for the first time, what's happened is that something I've been working for a very long time with my band. It's finally come through. We landed a major record deal, and now I have to spend all my time really developing our sound and getting ready for touring. The album's done and it's getting ready to be released. We still don't have all the information from the record label, but this is what's happening, and this is this is the only reason I'm having to give up the show, because I'm going to have to spend all my time, all my concentrated effort in putting all my time into what we're doing. And it's the next phase of my life, the next evolutionary process of my life moving forward. And guys, this is it. All you musicians, and there's a lot of musicians here on this network, you know what I'm talking about. I spent 30 years of my life working at this and developing this, and it's finally come true. And now I have to put every ounce of my effort into this. But I want to thank all of you from the bottom of my heart for allowing me to be part of your lives. And hopefully, later on in the future, depending on where I am, where the band is at, and what's happened through all the developments, that, I can come back sometime in the future and maybe do this again. But not to fear, because I want to let you all know that Gordon James Gianninoto, which is a dear friend of mine, okay, Gordon and I have developed a relationship over the last 3.5, 4 years, a very deep relationship, and God knows how many shows we've done together. I can't even count them. He is going to be taking over the show. He accepted it, and I'm very happy that he did, because the man, you've all heard him speak. I mean, I don't have to tell you the amount of information and knowledge that this man has brought forward to all of us. He's going to accelerate and even bring the show further than I ever could. And I'm very appreciative of that he considered it and said, yes, I'll do it. So the show will continue as the Whole Agenda, but with your new host, Gordon James Gianninoto, and I think you're going to be extremely, extremely appreciative of that, because the man and his knowledge, he's an incredible human being, and understands so much, and probably more than I could ever understand. And he's the right man for this position, and I thank him over and over. And again, I thank all of you guys for allowing me to be part of your lives, and being part of this network. But for my last guest this evening, I have a wonderful person, and she's never been on my show before, but we talked for about an hour earlier, prior to the show starting. And let me tell you something. She's an incredible woman. I got to know her a little bit, and I really feel for her. Her name is Melanie Vritschan, okay? Or Vritschan. Make sure I get that proper. Now, Melanie is German and lives in Brussels. During 2 decades, she gained valuable experience in public relations and events management of international associations. Her former positions involved close cooperation with the European institutions and organizations of numerous international conferences and trade shows. Now, Melanie has a proven track record in working with high-level authorities such as the European Commission and the European Parliament, the organization of networks meetings, needs assessment and implementation of particular quote-unquote client groups, as well as successfully carrying out the pan-European interregional projects with the aim of promoting international cooperation. Now, she's also the founder of ICAACT, which was created to bring awareness to the general public and the legal systems around the world about the serious human rights abuses utilizing remote influencing technologies, and their aim is to obtain evidence. Now, you know what, gang? I think so much evidence has come out. It's probably closer to not obtaining evidence, but how to present this evidence and where they're going to present it to. Melanie, welcome to the program, and thank you for so much for being, you know, my last guest, as this show will continue. But thank you, because I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, hello, Robert. Good morning from Brussels, because it is 6 o'clock in the morning here.
Guten Tag.
Guten Morgen, yeah.
Okay, very good. Melanie, let's, because we had a really nice conversation prior to the show starting, and it got very deep, but let's let people know how you got involved and why you're involved in this.
Yes, so in 2008, I underwent surgery. I was working at the time for a program, a satellite navigation program of the European Space Agency, and I had been told that there was, end 30s, so I thought, I must say, I thought a little bit also of that there's something else in life than just your career. So I was thinking of, founding a family, having children. And I was told, yes, but there's a fibroid in your uterus and you should remove it if you want children. So, I was basically told this is just a routine operation and nothing very serious. So I said, okay, and I did that, but it was with a general anesthetic. And since this intervention, my life has totally changed and it's never been the same. The first symptoms I noticed was severe fatigue, which means after when I came round from the operation, weeks afterwards or even months afterwards, I was, totally tired and often feeling sick and just extremely fatigued, which was rather unusual for me because I've been somebody was very sporty, running the marathon.
Very
always,
active. Okay.
Very active, high levels of energy, let's say, and I just couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I didn't seem to be able to, recover from this operation. And then very shortly afterwards, I noticed something which was, worried me even more than the fatigue, is that my body started to extrude some foreign material.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
All right.
In the form of fibers, seeds, granules, hexagons, multicolored. So there were blue ones, red ones, white ones, black ones, and that was shortly after the operation. And when I saw this, I was, very shocked. Didn't know what this was, and at the same time, my body was itching all over, and I couldn't sleep. And I saw a lot of doctors, because and I was given anti-parasitic medication, because it is true, if something comes out of your body, the first thing is that you think it's some kind of parasite,
Right. Right. Well, I would think that as well. Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just not in the in the sense that we understand a parasite, I don't know, kind of worms or whatever. But I was going to find out later what it actually was. So I was given this anti-parasitic medication, which to no avail, which didn't help at all. And the problem continued, but there was really no doctor who could help me, and nobody knew what I had, basically.
Right.
So after really a very stressful time, you have something, you have got foreign material extruding your body, you're not sleeping, you're very, very tired, and to every doctor you go and see, they cannot help you because they don't know what you have. So,
Melanie, as you're going to these doctors, you're going to all these doctors, you're extruding these fibers, particles from your body.
Yes,
after doctor after doctor after doctor, they have they have nothing to tell you at this point.
None whatsoever. They just said that. I had different doctors. Some said that, it's just something your body is rejecting, but I wouldn't worry. Which I was like, if there's, material coming out of my body,
well, wait a minute.
Worry.
How could they say that to you?
Yes.
To me, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, you're extruding these fibers, things out of your body, but don't worry, it's just something that the body does. What?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. Some just told me, I don't know, I've never seen this, I don't know what it is, Yeah. And then you had the other group, that even in seeing this material coming from my skin, they said that I was delusional.
They were delusional.
Yeah, and I said, in seeing this material coming out of my skin, I was told I was delusional. So,
okay. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I thought, okay, well, obviously with these doctors, I'm not going very far. So I better do my own research to actually find out what I have and hopefully solve this. So I went on the internet and actually found out that I have Morgellons disease.
And now, before you go any further, let's break this down for the people who may not know what Morgellons disease is. Mm-hmm. Let's explain that to them.
Yes, I was coming to that.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So Morgellons disease, like I then found out, it was not really, being any more reassuring. What I read is that it is actually, at least in part, a nanotechnology that once it is in your body, it self-assembles and auto-replicates in the body to create what is like a complex system of wiring. So it's basically a covered technology taking over your body, connecting to your nervous system. Some people might think that sounds like science fiction, but this technology definitely exists. And once this technology comes into your body, and as the body does not recognize it, it also doesn't stimulate the immune system, and and it's trying to get rid of it. That's why it,
your immune system, your own body's immune system is trying to expel it. Okay.
Yeah. So this is why, you have this material so out of the coming out of your skin, but it then once it's in your body, it will start this self-assembling and auto-replicating process to build, like a little bit like a fiber optic system, inside the human body. So it's it's absolutely terrifying.
I just have to say, I would have been absolutely horrified and terrified seeing something like that coming out of my body. Now I know, and I've seen and I've read on Morgellons, and there's a lot of different concepts and ideas about this, but it does, what you say is exactly, and I have to say, you're right. It does look like some sort of nano-wiring, self-replicating nano-wiring, and that is extremely frightening. I mean, I couldn't imagine, Melanie, that coming out of my body and not knowing what to do.
Yes, I agree, and I was extremely frightened, I must say, and it's not only coming out of your body and also depriving you of your sleep. You suffer from terrible itching, and you can't sleep at night. But what was even really more frightening even is that you actually feel under the skin once this technology starts, this is self-assembling and auto-replicating, and it's basically little nanorobots that are programmed to go in a certain area of your body and to fulfill one or various functions there, is that you can actually feel, this technology, things moving under your skin. So it is, absolutely, you feel really your body is taken over by, something taking control over you,
Yeah. Well, Melanie, let me ask you this. I mean, you're saying you can feel it move under your skin. Does it almost feel like it's attaching itself or trying to attach to the epidural nerve system of the body? Does it feel like that because of the itching and scratching?
Yes, but I would say what I felt is that, when it was moving, it was very clear and precise that it wanted to go to a certain zone into my body.
So once it replicated, let's say, just as an example, that it entered into your hand, okay? Mm-hmm. Once it started self-replicating, where you're scratching and itching on your hand, okay? As it moves through underneath the epidermis and dermis of the skin, do you feel that movement, and that's where you want to itch? Because once it's implanted or implemented itself or it planted itself in a certain area, does it stop itching or does it continue to itch?
No, it continues to itch, and it's itching to this day. So it's very, very debilitating in your daily life, and also the sleep deprivation has never changed. Actually, the symptoms as if this was not terrifying and horrible enough, as we went along, the symptoms even increased. So first I had the fibers in this material came out of my skin, horrible itching, sleep deprivation, and going to all these doctors who basically couldn't help me or called me delusional. And but then very shortly after this, I actually felt that I was hit by directed energy weapons, which means I was attacked by and tortured and am still to this day by some kind of radiation weapon, so it felt like being constantly tasered. And at that point, I didn't know. So it's
very painful and shocking, like you're being electrically shocked.
Yeah, exactly. Like being electrocuted 24/7. So that started pretty soon also after these first weird symptoms occurred. And I was like reading and trying to find out what was actually happening to me. And what I found out in my reading of these, it almost sounds like a horror story, but it's not a story, it is really the truth, is that as I read up about this nanotechnology, I actually found that the rapid development of nanotechnologies unlimitedly expand the opportunities of covert introduction of any substance to our organism. And the fact that I was hit with radiation weapons, I think that in fact once this nanotechnology is in your body and it's undetected by its immune system, and then it becomes activated either by the cell's own mechanisms or an external trigger, and the external trigger is, for example, ultrasound and electromagnetic radiation. So the fact that, and I'm really not the only victim, that so many victims are attacked by this these radiation guns, basically these directed energy weapons, is to actually activate this nanotechnology in the system so that it would perform whatever function it is supposed to perform. You know?
Wow. This is a horrific thing. Let me ask you this, Melanie. I mean, as far as being the fibers, have you been able, as you're watching these fibers come out of your body, as your body is expelling them, have you been able to put them in capture them in a jar or petri dish or something and have those analyzed?
Yes, indeed. That was actually the next step I took. Once I realized that all these either GPs or dermatologists were really totally useless, I was even sent to the Tropical Institute here in Antwerp for tropical diseases, where they just told me it's not a parasite and you shouldn't worry about it, and sent me home. So I was really not impressed about how this problem was tackled by the doctors. So whenever I went, but then I said, okay, as this is nanotechnology, by that time I had found out that it was most probably nanotechnology that had entered my body without my consent, is that I went to the Leuven University clinic here and I went to see a toxologist. And I asked him to take samples from my skin, and because it was extruding my skin, it's really visible, So,
they could see it. They see it extruding from your body as you're going to the doctor, saying, "Look."
As I'm standing in their office, it is coming out of my skin. So it's they absolutely saw it. Yeah. So I went to see him, and I said, this is coming out of my skin. And I would like you to, take samples and actually analyze this material or whatever it is it's coming from my skin for me under the microscope. And he looked at it, and I believe at that point I really was his first patient. Let's give with this problem. Let's give him the benefit of the doubt. He looked very surprised and confused, and he said he had never seen anything like that, but they were going to do it. They were going to analyze this material or try to identify it under the microscope. And then some time passed, and I really had he first had a very interested reaction, but then as time passed, I didn't hear anything anymore, and I didn't get my lab reports, and so I had to, phone a lot of times and put rather pressure on him to give me these lab reports. And when they came, when I finally got them, it wasn't very reassuring, but it said that they could not really completely identify it under the microscope, so they had not. I've never seen anything like that. But what he could tell me is that it is an inorganic synthetic material. So, for one, this I already expected, but it's certainly not something that you should find in the human body.
And that's the next question. And you have to ask. Okay, they have no idea. They're trying to come up. Either they're telling you you're crazy, and you're going nuts, or a psychosomatic symptom of something else. and other doctors looking at this fiber coming out of your body and with no explanation whatsoever. They're trying to take samples of this fibrous material, and yet they still can't come up with any information. So, I mean, at this point, what do you do? You know, Melanie, what do you do?
Well, I actually asked the toxicologist when I got these lab reports, finally, and they were not much more, reassuring, or there was not much more information on it than, I already kind of suspected. I asked him and said, well, now that you cannot identify this material under the microscope, what will you do? What is the next step, And he then said, well, actually that should be analyzed by a crime lab.
A crime lab. Right.
Forensic, laboratory.
Right. Okay.
And I said, very well. So, are you going to send them to a forensic laboratory? And by that time, and this is what, during this whole horrible experience, that's what I often see, is that at first people are very interested, and then somebody, I think, intervenes, because then suddenly their reaction changes. So at that point he was already less, willing to investigate this any further. So I really had to insist, and then he finally said, well, okay, I'm going to send this to a forensic laboratory.
What I can't believe is that you would have to insist for, a doctor to have this incredible materials fiber coming out of somebody's body, which has never been seen, to insist to have it analyzed and then go to a forensics lab. Any doctor, a lab technician, whoever, looking at something like this should say, I've never seen anything like this. Immediately, their mind should go to, we need to analyze and find out what's going on. That should be their immediate response.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree. And unfortunately, this is not at all the response. Morgellons victims, usually see, because they're either called delusional or, nothing's really...
Well, let me tell you something.
They're told, we can't help you.
Melanie, as far as I can see clearly, you are not delusional in any way. You're not psychotic. You're not nuts. You're telling me straightforward exactly what's happened to you. Now, why is it that you have doctors with medical degrees, so-called medical degrees at this point, telling you that you're insane or you're nuts or you're delusional, and, we have to have this sent out to a forensics lab instead of testing in a laboratory right there where they all have facilities? In any hospital, they have labs. They have labs to test for just about everything that's out there. Now, I would have questioned that right off the bat.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I think it was outrageous that, I had to, first of all, push him to do this analysis. Then when he told me that, after I had had to insist again, he told me then finally that I couldn't really identify it under the microscope, and he was going to close the case with that. And I said, well, I don't think, we can be satisfied with this answer. So I was even the one who suggested to him to, take it further and send it to a forensic lab. And then he said, well, yeah, we could. And I said, well, I suggest you do that then, which is, really, it's the other...
It's just so shocking. You see, coming from that point of view, it's so shocking. So you, at this point, you're thinking, well, what the hell is this doctor hiding, or what does he not want to know?
Yeah, at that point, indeed, I think that he had actually made his own research and actually found out what this really was, and was not particularly keen on doing any further investigation. That was even confirmed, because when he finally sent it to the forensic laboratory, and I had to insist again that he would at least give me the name of the laboratory he was going to send my samples to, and who was the professor, dealing with it. After some time and various phone calls, I was then actually told that the samples had disappeared.
Okay. That tops the cake right there.
Yes.
The samples disappeared just like that, huh?
Disappeared, and therefore they were going to close the case. So then it was very obvious that there was something they wanted to hide, and that they did not want to do any further investigation in this kind of problem.
Did you? There has to be at this point some sort of criminal investigation. Why a doctor would be so negligent into basically trying his hardest not to investigate it, sending it to a forensics lab. Then it comes back and you get the results, and then he says the results are lost or the samples were lost. I mean, this is beyond absurd.
Yeah, this is very clearly then a cover-up.
Without a question.
Yeah.
Without a question.
Yeah. And, what happened then is I actually, with my research on the Internet, I found many, many more people that were, suffering from the same problem than I do. It was rapidly, I was involved in quite a big internet community of people that had experienced the same symptoms, had gone through the same,
Melanie, just to be clear here, Morgellons was never heard of until very recently, and now there are so many people who have contracted this so-called disease, quote unquote. What is the percentage of people now coming forward with saying that they have all these bizarre symptoms, these fibers coming out of their, their skin and all kinds of other craziness? Because I know it affects people very differently because everybody's biological makeup is a little different. I mean, people coming to you and opening themselves up to you through the website. What's the percentage of people at this point?
Well, I can only say, I don't know what the percentage is, but I can only say that once I started to go public with this and do radio shows or I was contacted by at least in Belgium by at least 20 people saying that I had Morgellons.
Okay, here's the thing.
And there must be many more there suffering in silence, actually who don't know what this is and have not gotten any help by the doctors.
This is the crazy part. You have a doctor who refuses to really do any investigation. You send it out to forensics. It comes back. He loses the results. You don't know what you have. All of a sudden, now they're coming up with this quote-unquote word to describe a disease called Morgellons. Yet he wasn't willing to do anything, literally. So, I mean, this is insanity. I mean, it's truly insanity.
But, to go on.
Melanie, you there? Melanie, is your headset still on? Is it working? Can you hear me? Oh, it looks like we lost her for just a moment here, folks, because she is in Brussels, and, we do have a storm going on over here. Well, we did earlier, but I don't know if that's affecting us right now, but it looks like she's dropped off for just a second, but we're going to try and get her right back in. It looks like we're trying to reconnect right at the moment. But you know what? This is part, if you ask me, and Lorian Fenton can tell you this because this is what she does, is part of the whole Super Soldiers program. The next question I'm going to ask her, and this all has to do with chemtrails. They're spraying us all over the world. They're spraying us all over the United States, all over Europe. They're spraying in, Australia. I don't know if they're spraying in Russia, but it is a very, very bad situation. And I think part of this is part of the nanotechnology, the super soldier technology. I mean, I don't know how to describe it Lorian could probably describe it a lot better, but I know that what Melanie is talking about is this nanotechnology which is infiltrating the human body, which is probably a process of adaptation to some sort of covert well, it is definitely a covert project. It's a black ops project, but it is the meshing of the biological and the technological. And you know what? This has been going on for a long time, and now it's becoming more present than ever, and it's frightening because now it's really out in the open. It's affecting people beyond belief. Look, they have no recollection of where they've been. And this is something Melanie will tell you through her abductions, and her abduction process is what she talks about is basically being taken. Okay, but I'm not talking about as an ET abduction. I'm talking about as a governmental black ops project abduction, where she has been taken, she has been experimented on. But it almost reflects and talks about the contact experience which I had.
What?
Oh, Melanie, you're back.
Oh, yeah, I'm back. We got
Okay.
cut.
Yes, we did get cut. Yes, we did. And I was just rambling on a little bit as I brought you back in, that the reality is that this is a very covert operation going on. It is affecting people all over the world, some more drastically than others. You know, I had mentioned earlier when we were talking before the show started, I said, I just wonder how it affects people biologically because everybody's a little different. We were talking about blood types, and I asked you, do you think maybe that people with different blood types are being affected differently, or with the immune system, some have a stronger immune system or a little bit of different of immune system, and some get affected right away and others take a very long time to be affected?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if it targets a specific blood type, but what I do know is that every person, every life form on this planet has somehow been, exposed to this material, because what we also know is that this nanotechnology is also, in the chemtrails, also sprayed on us.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's what I was going to mention, because look, on the chemtrails, besides the known most common particles that they're spraying is the aluminum oxide, the barium, and then the sulfur dioxide. I know there's probably a lot more chemicals in there that aren't being determined or just have not been able to be identified, because it's a very small nanoparticle. Looks like I just lost Melanie again. We're going to try and pull her right back in here again really quick. But the reality is that has to be affecting people dramatically and drastically. Okay, Melanie, you're back?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we dropped off.
Definitely, we have some interference here.
Yes, and that's okay. They can keep trying to interfere with us all they want, but they won't get too far.
Yeah, I agree. They can slow us down, but they can't stop us. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
To
come back to
the particles and all the other particles that are in there that we really don't know about. I mean, what's your take on it? What's your perspective?
You mean what is sprayed in the chemtrails? Or?
Well, I said that there's aluminum oxide and barium and sulfur dioxide, but what about other particles in there that we are not aware of that are being sprayed worldwide? Because I'm assuming that they're using a lot of different combination of particles besides those three main components.
Yes, I mean, definitely heavy metals, but I think also, bacteria, viruses, and also sedatives, I think, are sprayed.
Yes.
So, making us docile, don't think too much, don't complain too much. But now to come actually to the International Center Against Abuse of Cover Technologies, to ISA Act, is, I mean, the chemtrail spraying is definitely going on, and it's great. These experiments are done, globally every day. But what we do with ISA Act is, in fact, at that point when I really realized how many people had this kind of symptoms and this kind of problem, is that I then got in contact with my colleagues from ISA Act, because what we do in ISA Act is actually we organize for members of the public free of charge radio frequency scans, which means that the people that have these kind of symptoms can come to us, and on a regular basis we scan the members of the public that come to us for radio frequency emissions with a detector.
Now, what kind of frequencies are you using? Because there's the low frequency, mid, high frequency. Is there a particular frequency that needs to be used for scanning for these particular frequencies in the body that you're? And we need to go back a little bit, because you're saying these fibers that are being emitted from the body are actually producing a frequency.
Yes. So what we do, we scan for radio frequency emissions. So once, basically this is implant technology. So once you have the implants in the body, your body emits radio frequencies. It's not normal for the human body to emit radio frequencies.
Okay.
So what we do is we offer to people that have this experience these kind of symptoms, that they can come to us and we scan them free of charge for radio frequencies. And we do it once in an uncontrolled environment, so from time to time we organize these events. And I was then instrumental in 2012 to actually find a Faraday cage, which is to be able to do these kinds of tests also in a shielded environment. So to really prove 100% that the emissions is coming from the body of the person
and not from an outside source, right?
Yeah, exactly. So totally rule out that it could come from an outside source, because we have to play devil's advocate,
Right, well, of course.
Yeah. So we did that this radio frequency scanning in the Faraday cage in 2012 with a group of 14 victims that we had scanned previously outside the Faraday cage, who came out positive, outside the Faraday cage. We also then scanned them inside the Faraday cage, and we could confirm with the same results, basically. So, and we also had a control group. These were people that were selected randomly, basically volunteers. They had no signs of or symptoms of that are generally associated with electronic terrorism, and with them it was negative. We couldn't measure anything, and it always, the frequency counter always showed 00, and so. And the ones that we had scanned previously that had been positive, they were also positive in the Faraday cage. So, and people came from all over, and it was really an international study.
That should, I mean, if there were any scientific bodies there that who were really interested in finding out what's going on, they would have figured out that there's something definitely wrong, because the human body, period, does not emit radio frequencies.
Yes, indeed. And because what happens, and that was also my case, unfortunately, happens often once these victims are implanted. I mean, the symptoms and complaints that they experience are so debilitating,
yes.
And a lot of people are, including me, or a lot of these victims are really tortured by these radiation weapons.
Can I ask you before we go any further? I mean, through these frequencies that are that are debilitating in many ways, are they implanting thoughts in the mind? As far as in your case, are they implanting thoughts or ideas in your mind?
Yes, they can. So, but there, I think it depends a little bit on the personality. I know that with me, they did try to influence me, or but I can very clearly differentiate if it's my thought or if this is something an implanted thought, so to
in
speak,
other
or
words,
induced.
In other words, if it's you just having an idea in your head or something, in other words, something telling you, like a voice in your head that is trying to implement a thought for you.
Yeah, I know when it's not my thought, when it's induced.
Okay.
But I believe not everybody, and I mean a lot of these victims also experience dream manipulation, because it's possible with this kind of technology to also beam, for example, images into your head, or even show you video clips. This is all possible, and I know, for example, even if I'm dreaming, or I knew that this is not my dream. This is now something that is induced.
Okay.
And
so in other words, you're either maybe in a semi-dream state, and something is being introduced or induced into your thought process, and it's interfering with your own natural dream process in a sense?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, since I've been implanted, I haven't had any more natural dreams.
Well, let me ask you this, Melanie: have they found these fibrous, wire type objects coming out of? If they looked at your scalp, have you looked at your scalp and seeing any of these coming out of your scalp?
Yes, indeed. They came out all over, and also my scalp. And also, I know how this sounds, but the form of my head has changed. So there are several lumps on it, which were not there before. And I think when we discussed before the show, I told you that I had never been operated, never done anything to my ears, and that there are surgical scars behind my ears.
Which I know we talked about it, and I said, well, maybe I should stay away from the subject, but you said it was okay. And just as a reference point, because I have gone through my own contact, but my contact has been extraterrestrial in nature. I'm just wondering that because we've known now, we've all kind of figured this out, that there are a small percentage of, ETs that have been working with our government for a long time and have given them technology. Besides the technology that we have been given, we're smart enough to figure it out, the process of engineering, and enhance that engineering to a certain degree. Do you think that maybe it may be possible that they have taken this technology, advanced it through the Black Ops project of this nanotechnology, to use it as, and I'm really sorry to hate this word, but to use human beings as guinea pigs to see the results of their creation?
Well, it could be possible, I'm not saying, but as I said before the show, in ISAC we focus more on, actually building a court case,
yes.
and proving this.
Yes.
So, if we said, unfortunately, you will not bring the aliens to court.
So the moment both said it, the moment we use ET in a courtroom, it's over.
Yeah,
I understand
exactly.
that. I completely understand that.
So this is why we do not. I'm not saying it's not possible, but we do not focus on this side of things. We really are focused on building a case and proving it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So this has helped me personally, that we did this scanning in the Faraday cage and actually obtaining, because what we also see with these victims is that as soon as these victims of cover technologies complain about these kind of symptoms or voice these complaints, and especially if they even mention that they think that they could have been implanted, very quickly they are rerouted into psychiatric units, and and then drugged beyond belief, so that we have seen this a lot of times, that actually the victims, that of electronic terrorism have been locked up against their will in psychiatric units, and sometimes you never hear from them again. So we really want to provide them with evidence so that this would not happen, and also raise awareness. I personally, I'm quite often in the European Parliament to discuss with the members of the European Parliament about this issue, so that also ultimately we can create appropriate EU legislation to protect our citizens from these kinds of totally unacceptable abuses.
Well, Melanie, they did the same thing here with numerous amounts of people in the United States. This is nothing new. This has been going on, and then 30, 40 years later, it comes out that people were it tears me up inside that they used the poor black and white people to infect with diseases to see the end result of what would happen. This has been going on for millennia, and this is just now another advanced version of it. And here you are suffering, and my dear, I'm so sorry that you're going through all this, and everybody else who's suffering through this despicable act that is being perpetrated on the human race, and you happen to be a victim of this. And it breaks my heart because, I don't, this is something I have to say, you don't, if you look at the animal kingdom, you don't see any certain species trying to, kill itself off. Experiment on it, or be jealous of it, or anything of that nature. But we're the only species on the planet that just
not that insane,
that destroy and that aren't that insane. It just makes me want to vomit. Really, literally makes me want to vomit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is. This is absolutely crazy what is going on, and this is also the problem that is so atrocious. It's the atrocities that are going on. It's so beyond belief that the problem is that the victims also have that. Yeah, nobody will believe them. They're often estranged from their families
or locked up,
from their friends, and totally isolated. And many have lost their job or even the possibility to make a living. So it is really, really terrible. So what we want to do is provide them with evidence, and
now in the next hour, I want to talk about the how you're going to proceed with the court case if that's moving forward, and all the evidence you're going to be able to present. Because I think if you can present the evidence and it's strong enough, you're going to be able to bring some of these people to justice. But the problem is, Melanie, is who are these people? That's one of the biggest, hurdles that has to be gone over, is identifying who these people are, because it is so covert. It's such a black project that most of these doctors and agents or whatever they are they act as an ordinary everyday person, but the problem is it's hard to identify them because they are deep in these black projects. And how can you identify them if they have no identification? How can you bring a system like this forward if there's not enough people who are convinced and say, yes, there's something definitely going on. These people are suffering. Those people have to realize that you are suffering, and then, again, identifying the culprits, the agents, the whoever that have created all this, and to bring them to justice. This is a whole. You're talking about a Pandora's box, a can of worms that once you open it spills all over, and it spills all over the world. The second hour of the broadcast, and I want to thank you all for being here, and being part of this broadcast. You brought joy to my heart, and I hope I have brought joy to yours, and I hope I brought some really wonderful information for you, and with all the guests that I brought onto this network, I hope they have helped also enlighten you and, bring you to a higher level of consciousness and reality. And that's basically what this is all about. It's understanding a higher level of consciousness and reality. To shed the skin of what we all lived under for such a long time and move on to higher realms. And again, I just want to say for all of you who are just joining right now that this is my last broadcast here on the network. Lorian Fenton is going to be joining us at the end of the show for about 5 minutes, and she's a dear friend. She's the one who actually brought me on this network, and I love her dearly, and I'll never forget her, and we will always be friends. And I just want to say I've really enjoyed my time here on the network, and I want to thank each and every one of you for allowing me to be part of your lives, letting me into your lives, to give you my perspective, my thoughts on everything that's going on. And I want to continue this wonderful conversation with Melanie Vritschan. Excuse me. I got to get that right. She has suffered tremendously, and she's brought the awareness, the idea and the facts and the awareness of the nanotechnology, basic technology that has intruded into her life and many other people's lives. It uses experimental guinea pigs, more or less. It's heartbreaking, it's saddening, but she's fighting back. This nanotechnology has caused a lot of harm to so many wonderful human beings on this planet, Melanie being one of them. But she's not taking it laying down. She's fighting back, and that's why she's on this program tonight. And I feel honored to have her as my last guest on this broadcast. Now, don't forget as well that just because this is my last show, that does not mean this is the end of the whole agenda, because my dear friend, my very dear friend, Gordon James Gianninoto, is going to be picking up the show starting at the beginning of August, and God knows how many shows we've done together, and you are going to find him incredibly fascinating for those of you who are just listening for the first time. And for those of you who know him, I know you'll definitely be tuning in to listen to him, because he's an extraordinary man with an extraordinary mind, and he has a lot to say. And I hope that he brings guests on like I have. But then Gordon, he really doesn't need any guests because of all the knowledge he has. But anyway, moving forward, Melanie, I just wanted to say before, we get into, how this is all going to be brought to court and fruition, all that, I have thought with the doctor, do you think that maybe he injected you with this nanotechnology, maybe aware or unaware that he was doing it, simply, a vial placed in the proper place at the right time, and you were injected with this, you just happened to become the test subject for this nanotechnology?
Yes, so it could either have happened that maybe the doctors didn't know, or that this nanotechnology was in the products, in the anesthetic products, or indeed I was deliberately chosen, and they did know. What I can say to this is that when we look, for the people that we have scanned, from all the people we have scanned, we had 60% were women and 40% were men. And from all the ones that we did scan, in total 83% came up positive. So that's extremely high. But we have more women than men. And when we look at them, they tend to be isolated or single or divorced, or so I believe in that case that I was certainly for them an interesting test subject, so to speak, because I'm from Germany. I came here to Belgium, to work, and so I don't have any family support around me.
So they would choose. You thinking that maybe they would choose test subjects who didn't have family or were
Yes.
loners in that regard, that they would have, there would be no lashback of any kind, maybe.
Yeah, indeed, and especially single women are very exposed, and even more so when they do not live in their home country and do not have any family support around them.
Right.
So yeah, so I think that is why I think the people that did this to me, if the doctors they were operating me, if they knew it or not, I don't know. But the person who decided to choose me as a test subject, probably these kind of calculations probably entered, the selection process.
The equation, yes.
That's what I mean.
Well, that would make sense. I mean, I guess you would have to be very selective, so it would not appear to be a very in your face, people being used as test subjects, where you have a group of people being used as test subjects all in one area, because then it would become highly suspicious. So that
Correct.
would make sense.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Here's the thing. If they're doing it in Brussels, they're doing it in Germany, they're doing it in France, they're doing it in Italy, they're doing it in Norway, and they're doing it in Sweden, that means they're doing this worldwide. Because, as you pointed out, Morgellons has now become worldwide. Yet, no one ever heard of Morgellons, and I certainly had never heard of Morgellons. And all of a sudden, there's an eruption of a disease, which all of a sudden, just like AIDS, by the way, if you remember, all of a sudden, this new disease came out onto the public forum, and was infecting people by the millions. Okay.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, was just like that, and it would seem like certain people at certain places throughout the world were being infected, and they knew it would spread. Do you think this is an infectious disease that spreads from person to person, or is it all part of the chemtrail spraying process that is infecting people on individual basis, depending to their exposure, their immune system, their blood type, and everything else that goes under that thought process?
Yeah, difficult to say. I mean, I don't consider it contagious, because it's a nanotechnology. I think if there are more people in one family that are infected, probably they were exposed to the same kind of toxic material, or rather than being transmitted from one person to another. But what we also have to say that I've seen that many Morgellons victims actually also have Lyme disease.
So is there a connection?
Yes, there is a connection. There's definitely a connection. Not all of them, but a high percentage. I think I read somewhere 85% of the Morgellons victims also have Lyme. So from Lyme disease, we do know that it's, a weaponized disease, that it was developed, in the weaponized version of it in Plum Island,
Right.
Under the former Nazi scientist Erich Traub.
Well, look, when the founding fathers, okay, when the criminals came here, okay, to take the land away from the American Indians, you know what they gave them? Blankets. You know what those blankets were infected with? Smallpox. To eliminate,
I've heard that.
The population.
Yeah.
So this is nothing new. This has been going on for hundreds of years, millennia. But this has gone to another level, which is just beyond belief, because you can't even get a doctor to verify what it is, yet alone to testify. And this is where it's, elevating this process to, is how to bring these people to court. Can you get some doctors and some analysts, some biologists to testify in court to what is going on? And I guess this is where it would have to start.
Yes, well, what I personally found very helpful is that once we had done this international study and we had scanned these victims that came from all over, European countries, but also from the United States. We had somebody from Israel, I believe, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, France, Holland, Belgium, Spain. They really came from all over, and when you go on the ISAC website, you will see this report, and you also see the film, the video of the scans. Because they tried really hard to send me to psychiatrists as well, and even to lock me up. And this hasn't worked. I could successfully avoid that because on the basis of the report, from ISAC that proved that it was in a controlled environment, my body is emitting radio frequencies. And so at least what I could achieve is that because many people, they're, chosen as guinea pigs, implanted, and then they lose their job, and they're really, gravely impoverished, and their life is going down the hill, so to speak. I also cannot work anymore, but on the basis of this report and about on these tests we did, when I showed this to the doctors, they could not find any argument, let's say, other than it had to mean that I was implanted, against my consent. These results were from all the doctors I showed it to, and even the doctors that were in government that actually are supposed, working for the government, that are actually supposed to verify that you look for a job and, and that decide on if you're entitled to a disability or not.
Right.
They had to finally, on the basis of this report and the tests we did here in Belgium, in this research center, admit that this could only mean that I was implanted,
Okay.
And so I got a disability pay.
And thank God for that. Thank goodness.
Yeah, thanks God for that, because,
yes. But the point is, now that they have admitted that means that you have been infected. They have to acknowledge what has happened to you. So are they willing to go the next level, the next step forward in trying to bring, let's just say, because just for argument's sake, you would have to bring the government to trial because you have no single finger to point in any direction as a black project that, we are being used as these animal guinea pigs. So you would have to bring the government to trial because the government is the one who's supposed to know what's going on in their own land and supposed to be protecting their people.
Yeah, indeed. So, what we know is that this kind of technology, there are two groups who have got access to this kind of technology. Is, of course, the military and the secret services.
Okay.
So, and we also can show that there is indeed, as you mentioned, Robert, a long history of, non-consensual experimentation on the public.
Yes.
There have been, the MK Ultra investigations, the Church Committee in the United States. So what we can definitely show is that this is not new, that this has been gone on, during decades, actually. Who has got access to this kind of technology, and where the universities or research institute where this kind of nanotechnology is developed. We know, for example, that the technology, the Morgellons technology, is called, the official name is Smart Dust. Well, Smart Dust, we know that it's been developed and funded by DARPA. So we at least come out, even though we do not have the names, the actual names.
And who funds DARPA? The American government.
Indeed. So even though if we cannot come up with the actual names of the scientists or who were developing this kind of criminal implant technologies, we can at least come up with some organizations or data involved in this kind of development, and we can show the ISA Act report with study we did that all of these people, that, from all of these countries had the same results, had the same complaints, and came up positive in a Faraday cage. What also, and I've tried to be very conscious with this, and I have reported it every time. Many victims of discovered technologies then also do report that they or also experience illegal entries into their home, their property being ransacked. They're denied services, where before there was no problem. So we can at least show there's a pattern here,
Right.
Whilst we cannot maybe name as you said, the names of the perpetrators, we can at least emit some suggestions of where these kind of technologies are developed.
Right. There has to be a wide spectrum, something that you can sweep across and say, look, somebody's responsible for this, and you have to start somewhere. So if it has to be the military or the secret services, that's fine. But someone has to be responsible for this.
Yeah,
the MK Ultra program, has been going on since the 1940s? So, mid-1940s, so we're going to 70 plus years of control of the human condition, and now they've just furthered it through the nanotechnology, which I brought up earlier. Retrieved ET technology, which basically has been adapted for the human condition. So regardless of that point of understanding, it is being used on the human population. And again, they're doing this process. It's like a revolving door. I swear to you, Melanie, it's like a revolving door. We're on a circus wheel here, and it continuously goes around and around and around, and the only thing that's changed is technology. But
they're getting ever more advanced.
That's it. That's it. But because we have the real control, we as the population have the real control, are too afraid to stand up, wake up, and say we've had enough. We're done. We're not dealing with this anymore. And people like yourself who have been targeted and are suffering through this breaks my heart. Because this has to end. This has to end.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, of course. But because it is true that it's not going to be easy, of course, what we really would need is an international investigation, I think, into these crimes. But there's also another way, if, our governments cannot either are not able or not willing to investigate.
Well, I would say not willing. You see, that's the right
I would agree.
Words.
Yeah. These kinds of crimes, we also have, us as citizens, also have another way to do that, to achieve that, because whilst, going along and making all these experiences, I also joined. It's not a party, it's a political citizens movement.
Yes.
It's called Debout les Belges, Belgians Arise, actually, Stand Up Belgians, because and the founder of the party is a former member of the parliament here in Belgium, Laurent Louis, and he has been instrumental in actually investigating all the pedophilia crimes that have happened here in Belgium.
Which is rampant worldwide with all these governmental bodies.
Absolutely. So, so for my work with Debout les Belges, I also then got in contact with Kevin Annett, who is here the assistant to the prosecutor of the International Common Law Court of Justice in Brussels, which is a citizens tribunal. investigating, very high dignitaries, child molesters and murderers, and they just actually convicted the church leaders Bergoglio, so the current pope.
Good. It's about time. That's all
Panchon.
It's about time.
And Welby. So this is for pedophilia cases, but we can also imagine, because this is also another crime against humanity, to mount such a case as well, with such a citizens tribunal. So if our governments really show clearly that they that are not willing to investigate these kind of crimes against humanity, we can also do it via a common law court, a citizens tribunal, and assume our natural authority as we are the people, we're sovereign. Actually, it's just that often we just don't know our rights, but we do have them,
right.
And we can convene such a tribunal if that is necessary as well.
Well, I would say this, that the European people are much more active and very aware, much more aware than the American people, because over here we're like sleeping sheep. And I've used that term many, many times. The sheeple are still asleep. I would say that the European population is much more aware. Look at what's taken place over there compared to what's happened here. And here, this is the head of the snake, right here. This is the head of the snake. This is what controls it all. All the tentacles that have reached out throughout the world. The head needs to be cut off in order for this whole system of treachery and deceit and denial and lies and corruption needs to stop. But if we don't stand up here as the American population, if we don't wake up enough, this will continue on as it has through millennia. So you are absolutely right that it is from the bottom up. It is the citizens who need to bring this forward, because the top is the one controlling it. Everybody looks to the top for the answers when the answers are exactly what they want you to hear, and you just you take it in like I don't know, you take it in like it's the truth, and this is the problem. People need to wake up, and it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking because we're continuously fighting this uphill battle. You, me, and everybody involved in this, and at one point something has to give. Something has to give.
Yeah, correct. So I do hope that we will succeed. With the European investigation, that's, as I said, I'm often in the European Parliament to get a hearing on this subject. But if we should not succeed in this, and if our governments really show that they're not willing to investigate this, then because I have recently been approached to be the European spokesperson, European representative of the Common Law Court here in Brussels, and Kevin and Annette and myself, we will be holding a global media interview soon to discuss the results of this pedophilia trial, as I just mentioned.
Right.
But my objective is then, if we really have to see that our governments will not investigate this, then we should bring this kind of crimes against humanity in front of the common law court.
Yeah.
And then, as citizens, as you said, Robert, we have to investigate this ourselves and basically render ourselves the justice that is denied.
Of course, the criminals will never investigate themselves. Again, 9/11, the Gulf of Tonkin, World War II, World War I.
Yeah.
I mean, we can go on and on and on. That's the bottom line. The controllers are always there, and that's what we have to eliminate. But there has to be a whole other system altogether, because you are suffering as a victim from all this. And how many other people have suffered through this same process like you? Through mind control, the MK Ultra, and everything else that they've gone through, used as guinea pigs in this whole process. And it's
thousands and thousands of people, innocent people that were just chosen against their consent as guinea pigs and implanted with these technologies and tortured. What I said to you, Robert, is what I would like to mention still is that what is particularly shocking, what I said to you before the show, is that we are having now more and more children.
Yes.
That are actually coming to these scannings and they come up positive.
And also there's the other side of it where all these children are being diagnosed with what's the word I'm looking for? And I understand because you brought up the children because they're also being diagnosed with the disease. It's slipping my tongue right now, but I'll think of it in a minute. But which was never unheard of. So you have these children now being all affected around the world and I guarantee you is directly related to the chemtrail spraying, which is probably directly related to the Morgellons, which whether was implanted in you, you can't verify that, but there's a direct result of what it has caused you. And look at the affliction you're going through. I mean, you're on your personal, in your, living on a daily basis. This must be so debilitating for you at every level. It's disgusting.
Yes, and I was also, of course, because I was actually implanted before being pregnant, so I was very afraid also that my son could be affected by this. What is really, because we're talking about children, there's also even the tendency now to not only, send the parents to
Melanie, the word I was looking for was autism, by the way.
Oh yeah, that's a sharp increase.
Massive increase.
Absolutely, yeah. This is very, very worrying. I know, for example, for a fact that a medical research journalist, Désirée Röver, once told me this. There were, in a class, there were so many children that were autistic, and when they studied why this was happening, is that they were all drinking. In Germany, we have such a drink for children, and it is in aluminium packaging.
Yes.
And they were developing how do you say that? When they're hyperactive,
yes,
they can't concentrate, and that was the
ADHD.
problem. Sorry, ADHD. Yes, exactly. And it was these aluminium packages they were drinking on a daily basis.
Well, they put, what they put in our drinking water over here, don't you?
Yeah, fluoride. Yeah.
Fluoride. That is that is a direct byproduct of aluminum smelting. Aluminum smelting byproduct, and they put that in the water.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. Yeah, what I was saying is, the children, we have more and more children that come up positive, which is extremely worrying.
Yes.
And what I wanted to, my personal story, just to add to this, is that not only they have the doctors, and when you go to them and you complain about this kind of symptoms, they will immediately send you to a psychiatrist, and you will probably get drugged beyond belief. They did try this with me as well, but it didn't work. Fortunately, I had all the proof that it was not delusional problem, but in this process, unfortunately, because the family is often used against the victim as a weapon, not being conscious of that. But in this process, my ex-husband started a custody procedure against me, and there was, from the court, they ordered a psychological, expertise,
right,
for all of us. And what came, it's really outrageous, back was that I had a certificate from a psychiatrist saying that I was not delusional at all, a very good mother, and I could totally, educate my son by myself without any problem. I had another certificate from a psychologist saying basically the same thing, and that there was no kind of danger for my son. But this court psychologist, so the expert chosen by the court, I think she was probably briefed before.
She was part of the system.
Yeah, she was part of the system. She wrote in her so-called expertise. She's a good mother, and she has a totally normal and good relationship with her son. But her ex-husband says that she thinks that she is implanted with some kind of nanotechnology. This is, of course, totally delusional. So the baby should be taken from the mother and given to the father. And this is what happened. So I lost my son over this, and custody of my son. But and it was really terrible for my son, not understanding why from one day to the other he was taken from his mother and given to his father. So it was very horrible and painful for my son as well. But what was really shocking is that this psychologist wrote into her in her expertise that I was delusional because and I never even spoke to her about Morgellons. She says, well, but your ex-husband says it, and I said it has nothing to do with what he says. We're talking here about the custody. Am I a good mother or am I not a good mother? Exactly. And the rest is my problem, and I do not want to talk about it. But she wrote that I must be delusional, or I am delusional, and I should be sent every week to a psychiatrist. And not only that wasn't even enough, but not only me, I should see a psychiatrist, but also my 2-year-old son should also be sent to a psychiatrist.
This is a wicked person who is working for the other side, and it's disgusting. Do you? I'm so sorry, Melanie. I'm so sorry to hear that. Do you get the opportunity to visit with your son?
In the meantime, I've co-founded these 2 associations, and I have all the proof, and I've done a lot of things, saw politicians, interviewed victims, so many things. Actually, the good news is that my ex-husband actually then finally understood when I got the report from ISAACT, he's an engineer, so he could understand what these measurements within the Faraday cage meant, actually. So we do not have to, because the verdict was that the judgment was that custody would totally go to the father, and I could see my son 1 hour per week in a supervised facility.
Oh my!
So, but fortunately now, through the study we did, my ex-husband has understood actually that what I'm saying is absolutely true, that this is really going on, and so we are. Fortunately, we do not need the services, so to speak, of these social workers again.
So you're telling me, are you telling me that you and your husband have reconciled?
Yes, we could say that. Yeah.
Well, you know what? Then that's a wonderful thing, and I'm so glad that he's understood that and come to the realization of what has happened to you. Even from an engineering standpoint, he can see the numbers and say there's something wrong. There's something very wrong.
Yes, and he also saw this material coming out of my skin, of course. So So that has helped, and but I think really the scanning we did and in the Faraday cage and the report and the results have really helped him to understand what was really going on. And I'm fortunate with this, Robert, because just today yesterday I heard that there are other women that are not that fortunate. Another Morgellons victim was just sent to psychiatry yesterday here with the husband's approval. So I'm fortunate in that sense. I think that at least mine has understood that this is really happening. This is really going on. So
he really realizes how real this is now, and maybe how wrong he was, because but at least he recognized that, which is incredibly brave of him. And I think that's wonderful, because now you have to have that support behind you in order for this to really continue forward into where you want to where you need to bring this to, and make it so aware to the people. Now, what about the media? in your country? Are they even accepting this? Are they becoming aware of it? Do they want to expose this? In other words.
No, the mainstream media will not cover this.
Of course. I could have guessed that, right? Fox, CNN, CNBC, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, indeed. But before the show we were talking about Daniel Estulin, who's a brave and very good journalist, I believe. He has actually interviewed us with the other organization I've co-founded, the European Coalition Against Covert Harassment, twice now, and there were like really millions of people who watched this program. So we have a few exceptions, like Daniel Estulin from Russia Today, who will cover this and who are very interested in the subject. But there are unfortunately the exceptions.
Melanie, you should get a hold of RT yourself, Russia Today, because they are telling the truth. They're exposing things on every level. You need to get a hold of them directly, because I guarantee you they will promote your story. They will put it on the air.
Yes. Maybe I should say to this that we are organizing a covered harassment conference here in Brussels in November, on the 20th of November. Just, signed the contract for the venue, so it's going ahead now. Where we will talk about all these allied subject matter, covered technology, non-consensual experimentation, directed energy weapons, torture, organized stalking, what the victims experience, breaking into your home and ransacking your property. All this, these crimes.
Have you spoken with?
And we wanted to actually ask Daniel Estulin if Russia Today could cover the conference.
And you know what? I just said, you should just get a hold of them directly, because I think they would. I think they would very, very, very much be interested in your story, and they would put it on the air. Because they are not blocked by anything or anyone, which is a godsend. That is the only network, as far as mainstream media is concerned, that they will air the story. I know.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I know they would, and you need to make. I personally believe you need to make that connection, because they will hear you out, no question about it. It's you've suffered so much. There's so many people all over the world who suffer through this despicable technological monstrosity they've created, and it's hurting people so badly, and it breaks my heart.
Yeah, it totally destroys the victim's life, in every aspect.
Melanie, do you plan on coming to the United States and talking over here at any conferences anytime soon?
Well, it's always the money is always the problem. I would love to, but
I know. I know.
Now we have the conference here in November, the covered harassment conference. So I don't know. I would love to come to the United States, but it's unfortunately financially a little bit difficult. But if you wanted to come to our conference, Robert, you're most welcome.
If I find myself in Brussels, depending on where I am with my situation with my band and where we're going to be doing, I would be more than happy to be there, because I plan on promoting. I plan on continuing, even through my music, the process of exposure of all the lies and corruption, and that's one thing that I've always said I'm going to do, and now I have the opportunity to do it, and I will do it. I will continue that process forward, because I want everybody on this planet to be free human beings, with not being manipulated and going through all the fears of life that has been projected by these so-called powers that be to keep everybody, in check and in fear and under control. That needs to all come to an end. This is all part of the process. I don't care. You can go from A to Z in the whole alphabet, Melanie. That all of it needs to end. It all needs to end. In order for us to progress, in order for us to become more than what we are, to achieve the next level of higher consciousness, we need to shed all the old fears. We need to let go of everything that has been manipulated and corrupted and created in that realm, and shed our skin, so to speak.
Yeah, I think it has everything to do with that fearlessness that you've just mentioned. But it also gives me hope, because I think, Robert, I mean, it's very important what we're doing here, and I think it's great that you want to go on, waking people up, because I think that no parent in their right mind would like this kind of future for their children.
No one. No one.
And that's where I see some...
God forbid if your children contract the same thing that you have contracted through the manipulation and the black ops that you've been going through now for how many years? God forbid.
6 years now.
Yes. 6 years too long, by the way. 6 years too long. It shouldn't have been 1 year. It shouldn't have been any years. It should have been 0. But Melanie, I want to also welcome Lorian Fenton. She's just joining us for the last few minutes of the show.
Hello, Lorraine.
Hi, you guys. How's it going?
Hey, sweetheart. How are you?
Hey, the show's been wonderful tonight. Melanie, you're absolutely fabulous. And if I can afford it, I will definitely get you to the next Mind Control Summit. Because, that's all we did last time was targeted individuals. And Dr. Robert Duncan was there, and Dr. John Hall. And, just the whole gang was there. And the only person I couldn't get was Barry Trower, because... I think he was busy. I can't remember how it didn't happen, but I was trying to get him as well. But, is he going to be at your conference in November?
We have asked him, and he said first that he had already something, because he's, traveling around the world giving conferences, basically, on the subject. But we hope we can bring him round.
So good. Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, he's wonderful. Well, anyhow, I just want to say this is a great show to be closing your shows at with Robert. And since I was the one that introduced you on your first show, I thought I'd be the one to say goodbye to you on your last show. And in the last couple minutes here. And I just, I don't know what to say. I'm going to miss you, and Revolution Radio is going to miss you immensely. You always brought in on Friday night just some great commentary and fabulous guests, and I just love everything you've done here at the whole agenda. Now, what direction is Gordon going to take us in? Do you have any ideas on that?
You know what? You're going to have to talk to him about that, because I don't know. And Gordon. I mean, he's a man of 1,000 subjects, and he can talk about anything. So, Gordon he's extraordinary in the sense that he's so well versed on so many subjects that it's hard sometimes to even talk to him in that regard, because he just knows so much. He's like people have said, and I've heard this more than once, he's a walking encyclopedia when it comes to all the extraordinary subjects that we talk about. He really is.
He is. He really is. And Janet has a slew of information herself. So I think between the two of them, we might get everything from how to grow blueberries to how to shake hands with an alien.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's absolutely right. But you may not know this, Melanie, but my dearest girl, my other girlfriend here, she hurt her shoulder. How's your shoulder doing, sweetie?
Oh dear. Well, it's funny because I saw it happening. I saw the premonition was on Friday night when I walked into that bathroom when I first checked in. I saw myself falling in the shower and hurting myself, so I did everything I could to not let it happen. I was trying to thwart the inevitable, and it just didn't work. I thwarted myself right into it, and I'm doing okay. But, it was a big lesson for me that I have to pay attention to the vision, but I also maybe need to go check into a different hotel room. It's like, okay, let's get out of this room altogether. If I've seen this happen, don't try to fight it. Just get out of there and go somewhere else, So, that was fun. So I got to say, I'm feeling a lot better. I'm only doing the drugs at night to sleep, so I can sleep through the pain, and I'm doing Advil during the day, so it's been, 5 days, and I'm hanging in there, and I'm already off the painkillers. They give you a slew of painkillers just to basically knock you out for 2 weeks so you don't move.
Yeah. God.
Well, that didn't work with me. Good luck.
Yeah,
I won't even wear the sling they gave me, and it's in a place where they can't put a cast on it, so I was lucky there. So I'm basically just trouncing along like usual, and the heck with doctors. I always say I heal better if I do everything they tell me not to do.
Well, and I'll agree with you, because for the most part, I'm the same way. I'm like, what do doctors know? I mean, look, as far as advocating that they're the drug pushers for the pharmaceuticals, that's what they really are. A doctor, there's some wonderful thing that doctors do. Okay,
yes.
Mend a broken arm or a broken shoulder, collarbone, whatever. When there's a serious problem with an internal organ that needs to be operated on, I absolutely say they are wonderful human beings, but they've been taught to be drug pushers, and that breaks my heart, because that's 90% of their business, and it's unfortunate.
It is. It's really sad. Yeah, that's all I can say about that. But anyhow, Melanie, I'll have to have you on my show sometime soon. I've been threatening it for such a long time, and we'll get there. I promise.
You've got to be on our show.
Oh, yes. No, I'll have her on very soon, I promise. I was going to actually ask her to be on a few weeks ago, and then I saw you were having her on, so it's like, you know how I am. It's like we don't have the same person on the same days of the week, unless we're sharing them, which we've done before. Hey, we've done some good shows that way.
Courtney Brown?
Yeah, that was a lot of fun when we shared Courtney.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. That was cool to do.
So, Melanie, parting words here. We got a couple of minutes left, and everything that you've been through, and it's so heartbreaking, and I so sympathize, and I wish and hope and pray that you rid yourself of this nanotechnology somehow, some way. But your thoughts here on what you think people should do if they're aware of this, that this is happening to them, and what they can do for themselves.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say don't give up, I mean, even though it might seem that, all the doctors, they're all, corrupt and crooks, I must say that I have personally met a few individuals, like Loreen just said, Dr. John Hall, Dr. Edward Spencer. Here in Belgium, I also met a few that were really supportive, and and I believe that, as a group, we can only succeed when we unite, and then we can get these issues solved. So we have to, stand together and support each other and fight for our rights. And I believe that ultimately we'll get this issue solved, and help will be on the way.
Okay. Okay. One more time.
Even though it's very hard,
Yes. One more time for the people listening overseas who can attend the next conference. Where and when is that going to be again?
It's going to be in Brussels on the 20th of November, and I'm going to put the website here in the chat. So It's Covert Harassment Conference 2014 here in Brussels. So I will just put here the website so people can see that, where they can register.
So Melanie, I want to thank you so very much for being so very brave, for doing everything you have done to, again, bring this corruption and this despicable act that they have done and created upon human beings. And I wish you the very best, and I hope you take care of yourself, and I hope you can help so many other people and rid them of this. You're very welcome. And Lorian, I want to thank you so much, sweetheart, for coming on and saying...
Well, Robert, hey, have a great life, sweetheart, and thank you for being on Revolution Radio. We really had a good time, and we'll do it again someday in the future.
And all the best for your musical career.
Thank you very much.